This is the first workshop to Intro Python Programming. Let us begin. Programmers learning a language usually write a Hello World program as their first exercise. To complete our Hello World exercise, we'll go over the Python print function first. Virtually all programming languages have some method of printing text to the screen. In Python, the print function is the primary method of doing so. To use the print function, we use the function name print, then a pair of parentheses, then encase what we want printed in either single or double quotes between the parentheses. Another common use of the print function is to print the values of variables to the console. In this case, we simply input the name of the variable we want printed between the parentheses. For a more hands-on and interactive session, we'll be using the Learnpython.org website. Please navigate to the following URL. Let's review the content under the Hello World header. One major takeaway is the fact that Python has two different major versions, Python 2 and Python 3. Python 3 is what modern programmers use, since Python 2 is no longer actively updated or supported. Here in the first interactive Python window, we click the Run button, and the code in the script portion of the window will be executed in the shell portion of the window. So we see here that any text will be printed to the console as long as we use the print function, supplying the arguments for the function in the parentheses, wrapped in either single or double quotes. We could ignore the section on indentation for now, but we'll be covering this topic later. For now, let's complete the exercise. We're tasked with using the print function to print the line Hello World. Please pause the video now and attempt the exercise yourself before continuing. We can complete the exercise by editing the text in the script, replacing the word goodbye with hello. Then we click the Run button. With that, we've completed part 1 of our workshop. Virtually all programming languages use variables, which are storage locations associated with a specific name as well as a value. Take the following as an example. Wherever we refer to my name in the code, ShyHat will be inserted there. So, if we have the following code, the output should be ShyHat. The real benefit of using variables in programming is that a variable can be referenced multiple times in the same code, saving a lot of time and accounting while writing code. In addition, variables can change value after they've been defined. For example, say we have an online store program where we sell televisions. The program has two variables, TV price, which is the price of a television, and current total, which keeps track of the total price of the user's shopping cart. The two variables are set to 199.99 and 0, respectively. However, if a TV is purchased, then the total price variable increases by a value equal to the TV price variable. See the following. Given this code, the output should be 199.99. Data types are attributes of data which tell the compiler or interpreter how to use the data. The data types covered in this workshop are as follows. Strings, which are non-numerical characters or a combination of numerical and non-numerical characters. Integers, which are whole numbers, and floating point numbers, which are numbers accurate to several decimal places. The reason why data types are important is because computers do not inherently know how to interpret data. For example, if we have a program which calculates the average of school grades, the program wouldn't work if it was given words instead of numbers for the grades. Because there are data types, we can have the program check that all of the grades are numbers. And if there is a non-number in the input, we can inform the user that the program only accepts numbers for input, and prompt the user to input another value. Let's cover the next few exercises on the learnpython.org website. In our web browser, click on the blue Next Tutorial button at the bottom of the web page. Under the Numbers header, in the first interactive window, we see that there's the variable myInt, and its value is 7. We know that this is an integer and not a string, because the value is not wrapped in single or double quotes. We can check which type of data the myInt variable is by using the type function and supplying the myInt variable as its argument. However, if we modify the value of myInt by wrapping the 7 in single quotes and run the script again, we see that the data type of the myInt variable has changed from integer to string. In the next window, we see that any number that includes decimal places will be considered floating point numbers, also called floats. If we create the myInt variable in this window and assign it the value 7, then create a myTotal variable, which is the value of myInt and myFloat added together. Then use the type function to identify the data type of myTotal. We see that whenever integers and floating point numbers interact, the result will be a floating point number. In the next section, strings, we see that either single or double quotes can be used to define strings. This is useful because there are occasions where we want to include either apostrophes or quotation marks inside our strings. We see here that the myString variable can include apostrophes because it's using double quotes to encapsulate its value. But we can also use single quotes to define strings that include quotes inside of them, such as the following. In the next window, we see that simple operators, in this case, addition, can be applied to both numbers and strings. One important thing to note here is that the print function will work when numbers are added together, and it will work when strings are added together. But it will not work when strings are added to numbers, or vice versa. In the next window, we see that variable assignment can be performed on multiple variables on the same line. But for the sake of readability, it's not recommended. In the next window, we once again see that print will not work when strings and numbers are mixed. But we can use the str function to convert the numbers into their string equivalents to satisfy the print function. In the exercise, we're tasked with editing the values for the myString, myFloat, and myInt variables. Please try to solve the exercise yourself before proceeding. MyString should have a value of hello. MyFloat should have a value of 10.0. And myInt should have a value of 20. We input the three values, then click on the Run button to finish the exercise. And with that, we've finished part 2 of this workshop. Lists are part of what Python categorizes as collections, variables that hold one or more values, which can be strings, numbers, or a mixture of different data types. An example list in Python could look like the following. As we can see by the example, a list is defined as a number of objects separated by commas between a pair of square brackets. Methods are actions that can be performed with objects. Methods are performed by indicating the name of the object, then a dot, then the name of the method, followed by a pair of parentheses which contain any arguments required for that method. The list method we will learn in this workshop is the append method. The append method will add an item to the end of the specified list. Take the following code as an example. The friends list has two names, Alex and Barb. But after the append method is applied to add another entry to the list, the printed output should be Alex, Barb, Carl. List indexing allows for the selection of specific items in a list by referring to them by the position in which they appear in the list. To use list indexing, use the name of the list, directly followed by a pair of square brackets, with the position of the desired list item inside the brackets. For example, here, the output should be pine, since pine is the first item on the list. Note that counting positions in indexing starts from 0, not 1. In this example, trees 2 refers to cedar, since cedar is the number 2 item on the list if we count from 0. Let's cover the next few exercises on the Learnpython.org website. In the web browser, we click on the blue Next Tutorial button. Directly under the list's header, we see that the myList variable is defined as an empty list. Then, on lines 2 to 4, the numbers 1, 2, and 3 are added to the list using the append method. On lines 5 to 7, the print function is called to print the indexed items at index 0, 1, and 2, respectively. Finally, on lines 10 and 11, a for loop is created which prints out the value of each index in the myList list. We'll be covering loops in our next workshop, so we don't need to pay too much attention to it here. In the next window, we see that trying to access an index which doesn't exist will generate an error. In this case, myList is only indexed from 0 to 2, so accessing indexes from 3 onwards will result in an error. The exercise tasks us with appending items to the numbers and strings lists, and also modifying the second name variable. Specifically, we're to add the numbers 1, 2, and 3 to the numbers list, and add the words hello and world to the strings list. Then modify the second name variable so that it points to index 1 of the names list. Please pause the video and attempt to solve the exercise on your own before proceeding. We'll start by editing the second name variable on line 6, replacing none with this. Then, starting on line 7, we write out 3 append instructions for the numbers list. And starting on line 10, we write out 2 append instructions for the strings list. Finally, we can click the Run button to finish the exercise. This is the end of part 3. Hey there, HackerFrogs! Are you enjoying this workshop? Learning new concepts and skills? If so, there's a way you can support the channel, and it's totally free. Just click on the subscribe button below the video. Also, click on the like button. And if you have questions or comments on this workshop, please leave them below the video. Thanks for listening. And now, back to our scheduled programming. In programming terms, operators are used to perform an operation on a piece of data. In this lesson, we will learn about basic arithmetic operators that are used for mathematical addition, subtraction, division, multiplication, and a couple of others. Python uses the following operator symbols for basic arithmetic. The arithmetic operations that occur in Python follow the PEMDAS order of operations: parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. In summary, all operations enclosed in parentheses are performed first. Then all exponent operations are resolved, followed by multiplication, division, addition, then subtraction operations at the end. Given the following equation in Python syntax, first, the division operation inside of the parentheses is performed. Second, the exponent operation, 2 ** 2, which is Python syntax for 2 to the second power, is resolved. Third, the multiplication is resolved. Fourth, the division is resolved. Fifth, the addition is resolved. Finally, the subtraction is resolved, which sets our final result to 0. A common operator used in programming is the modulo operator. A modulo operation returns the remainder after one number is divided by another. The resulting number after a modulo operation is called the modulus. A typical use for the modulo operation is to determine whether a number is even or odd by performing a modulo operation on it with the number 2. If the result is 1, the number is odd, and if the result is 0, the number is even. Let's cover the next few exercises on the learnpython.org website. In the web browser, click on the Next Tutorial button. In the first window, we can play around with different mathematical equations for the number variable. In the second window, we see that the modulo operation is used. Since we know that the result of the modulo operation is the remainder of division between the two numbers, we can predict that the result will be 2, which is correct. In the third window, we're introduced to exponents, such as 7 to the second power and 2 to the third power, which are 49 and 8, respectively. The next window, using operators with strings, discusses adding strings together in a process called concatenation. Note that string concatenation doesn't insert spaces between words for us, so we'll need to include them manually. The next window discusses performing multiplication on strings, which simply results in the strings being repeated a number of times. Now we'll discuss using operators with lists. Using the addition operator with lists will result in a combined list, with entries from the first list concatenated with entries from the second list, end to end. Using the multiplication operator with lists will result in a single list with its contents repeated a number of times. In this section's exercise, we're tasked with modifying the contents of the X list, Y list, and big list variables. The X list variable should contain 10 instances of the X variable. The Y list variable should contain 10 instances of the Y variable, and the big list variable should be a concatenation of both the X list and the Y list variables. Please attempt to solve this exercise on your own before proceeding. So first, on line 5, we multiply the value by 10, and on line 6, we do the same. Then, on line 7, we add the value of the X list and the Y list. Then we click on Run, and the exercise is solved. Before finishing today's workshop, let's write a program that uses some of the concepts we learned. We'll use one of the Python windows on the Learnpython.org website to write the following program. A sandwich restaurant owner wants a program that calculates and prints out the total price of customer orders. The menu only consists of 2 items, sandwiches that cost $3.50 and soft drink cans which cost $0.99. The program should print out 2 totals, corresponding with the following customer orders. Order 1, 3 sandwiches and 3 soft drinks. Order 2, 7 sandwiches and 6 soft drinks. The program should contain at least 2 variables, with values equal to the prices of the 2 menu items. We'll go over a possible version of the program after this, but please write your own attempt at the program now. The following program fulfills all of the requirements stated previously. Going back to the Learnpython.org website, if provided with the following code, the totals of order 1, then order 2 are printed out. Did your program print out the same totals? Let's review the programming concepts we learned in this workshop. We wrote the Hello World program in Python, which is the first program students write for any computer language. We learned how to use the Python print function, which prints information to the console and is common to almost all programs written in Python. We learned about programming variables, named storage locations which hold specific values, which can be referenced multiple times in a program. We learned about data types, including strings, integers, and floats. We learned about lists, which are variables with one or more items associated with them. Items in a list can be referenced by a process called list indexing. The last thing we learned in this workshop is Python basic operators, which are used to perform arithmetic operations. In the next HackerFrogs AfterSchool programming workshop, we'll continue learning Python with the Learnpython.org website. The next workshop's topics will include string formatting, basic string operations, and conditions. Looking for more study material on this workshop's topics? See this video's description for links to supplemental documents and exercises. Until next time, HackerFrogs!